It's almost golf cart season in our community, and we've got some important info before you get behind the wheel. Major Scott Hood with our Lebanon Police Department stops by to detail the new inspection and registration process. What you need to know is right here on episode 245 of the Love in Lebanon podcast, and it starts right now.
Welcome to the Love in Lebanon podcast, highlighting all the great things happening in Lebanon, Indiana. Have an idea for an episode? Send an email to loveinlebanon@lebanon.in.gov.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 245 of our Love in Lebanon podcast. Joe LePage here, City of Lebanon Communications and Community Development Director. As we're recording this podcast, looking outside, snowflakes are falling. It is 24 or 5 degrees. Just a brutal day, but there will be warmer days ahead, we hope, and time to get on those golf carts. So we brought in an expert. There's some changes taking place within our golf cart kind of inspection and throughout our community as well. Lebanon Police Department Major Scott Hood joins us for episode 245 of our podcast. Major, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me here, Joe. Long time, first time.
And you mentioned before we hit record, you are a listener. You're one of our millions of dedicated followers, so appreciate that.
Thank you.
We're talking golf carts here, and later on today, we're scheduled to take some pictures of some of the inspections taking place at Lebanon Police Department headquarters down on Main Street, and kind of wanted to bring you in to kind of catch everyone up to speed on what's going on with the golf cart language and what folks need to do if they have a golf cart within our community. First things first, though, the reasoning for the change and the purpose for that. Safety, the number of golf carts. What can you tell me about the reason why things are massaged a little bit in our community?
I'll tell you, Joe, back several months ago, Councilman Robertson and Hawkins came to us at the police department and said they had been receiving an increasing number of complaints about golf carts operating in what they felt was an unsafe manner on the Lebanon streets. So they asked us for some input, for one, to confirm what they had been hearing from their constituents on there, if the police department had been hearing or observing any of those same complaints that they had been hearing about, and that, in fact, was true. We had been, so we began setting on looking at our ordinance to figure out what it was that may be able to be done a little bit better.
Yeah, and someone that hasn't lived here, we're going on not quite 15 years for my family and I. When we got to Lebanon, we moved into town. It was, wow, they love their golf carts here in this community. And then we had to have one, of course. And then that kind of evolution happened. But you've lived here longer than me. I mean, just the overall popularity and the function and the fun of having a golf cart, it's easy to see why those are so popular.
Absolutely. As someone who's been involved with the youth sports community, for example, here in town, the golf carts have been an excellent means of conveyance to and from these types of events. You kind of have a built-in seat with you when you travel to a ball game, and I have to admit, our dog absolutely loves to go for rides in the carts as well.
I think I've seen the dog on the golf cart. That's awesome, and we've seen the influx in them, and kind of sharing a personal story. I'm sure you have ones as well. Seeing underage kiddos behind the wheel of the golf cart on city streets throughout our community, and it happening in an increased number, which kind of led for this, as you mentioned.
Probably number one complaint that we hear about golf carts are children that are operating the golf carts or are being transported on a golf cart in an unsafe manner. Oftentimes it's somebody driving a golf cart with one hand and maybe carrying an infant with the other hand on the lap. Those safety concerns prompt more complaints to the police department, I'd say, than anything else.
And when looking and kind of fact checking and making sure that Councilman Robertson and Councilman Hawkins, kind of the complaints they got were founded, what was that like to see the actual numbers? Was it an eye opener for you, or is it validation of some things that you guys had seen kind of trending upward over the years?
It had pretty much been a validation of what we had been hearing. One item that drove some of the call to revise the ordinance too was the types of vehicles that we were seeing golf cart permits or the stickers on. For example, I think one complaint was golf cart decals were showing up on side-by-sides or those utility task vehicles on there.
And so what you're alluding to is someone may, because the way it used to be, you came into the clerk treasurer's office, you said, I'm going to register this golf cart right here. I've got my proof of insurance, and you would pay the $30 or so. And you're alluding to the fact that that was not what they put the sticker on.
Correct. Yeah, that was not the vehicle the sticker ended
The old
up being
okey-doke.
placed. So, yeah.
Gotcha, the old bait and switch. And so this whole changes that. And so if you can kind of break it down for us a little bit, and you mentioned like the side-by-sides and the now with the just an influx of e-bikes as well, just the overall motorized mode of transportation throughout our community is really on the uptick as well.
That's correct. When the council members first brought the golf cart complaints to us at the police department, they also had concerns about those side-by-sides, or the utility task vehicles as they're also known as, and e-bikes had kind of raised their head too. So initially, when the two of those council members drafted the ordinance, they included sections in it to further regulate or define what is a side-by-side, what is an e-bike, and as we started working through that process, it turned out we thought it would be better just to have one specific chapter for golf carts, another for the side-by-sides, and a third for the e-bikes. So as we worked through this process, we were able to knock out the revised golf cart ordinance, which is what brought me in here today. Next on the agenda is an ordinance allowing for the operation of the side-by-sides on city streets, and then getting into the e-bikes, what further defines an e-bike and, where they can be operated by whom and how.
Yeah, this is a challenging kind of discussion to have, because being in those public meetings and seeing kind of the Pandora's box that was open talking about e-bikes and things, this is just new ground, new territory. And so I think it was important that you guys kind of backed that up a little bit and separated the two, because the language was really getting muddy there, and it kind of got to be one of those things where you get deeper and deeper in that onion to all the layers made it difficult and challenging to put something together that was one whole ordinance that was a blanket for all vehicles involved.
It does, and it was kind of a nice peek inside as well. I don't envy our council members as well, because almost to a person, they all have full-time jobs where during the day they are spending their time working on whatever their civilian or normal job would be. Me, on the other hand, I caught myself thinking a lot about these ordinances, and it ate up quite a bit of my workday in there. And I just wasn't envious the amount of time I felt that they would have to put in addition to what their normal jobs would be, to draft or craft something that would be usable.
Well, speaking of your time, we appreciate you taking the time with us. We're talking with Lebanon Police Department Major Scott Hood here on episode 245 of our podcast. So we've kind of laid out the purpose for the difference in the language with the golf cart permitting process, the need for that as well, and some of the legwork too. How does this whole thing work? Because you can click on a link, everybody, on the Lebanon Police Department, their homepage. It's right there, golf cart inspection. Even on the main page of our City of Lebanon website as well, you can go there, click, and there are two different like little buttons you can click on after that. There's one for a special event, and there's one for an annual inspection. How nice is it for you to be able to have this kind of landing page where this process has changed a little bit, but folks can easily navigate through that process?
It was important for us as a police department because primarily we were given the task to conduct a physical inspection of the golf cart, and then by the ordinance implied was a inspection of the driver's license history, or to make sure that the person registering the golf cart was valid. One of the provisions of the golf cart ordinance is that it is operated by a valid driver. So we wanted to be able to schedule an officer to be present at the time of inspection and not necessarily have to pull somebody in from road patrol duties to be able to conduct these inspections. So the scheduling aspect of it was nice. When we look at the ordinance, we have the annual inspection, like you mentioned. That landing page takes you to two different ordinances, where your annual inspection covers your golf cart permitting for a 1-year period, and that's a calendar year. So January to January, basically, on that. So what the special event provision of the ordinance allows is the Board of Works, the Lebanon Board of Works, can designate periods of time where they can authorize golf cart operation for just that limited window. Most often people associate that with the week of the 4th of July, for example.
Pretty big around here.
Yeah, pretty big. You'll see a lot of influx of golf carts. So it is a way for people to register a golf cart if they don't necessarily want to get year-round use out of a golf cart, or there have been companies that will come in and offer short-term rentals of golf carts. People may take advantage of that. special event to be able to legally operate or permit and operate a golf cart in the city limits.
And so how does this whole the inspection process work? You guys are checking to make sure, obviously, that everything's working in proper order and all those things, that it is, in fact, street legal, all that stuff, the slow-moving vehicle.
Sure.
little
What we tried to do with that was just walk step by step through the ordinance, and began with the golf cart was designed as a four-wheeled vehicle. So we kind of created a checklist. When you click on the link to have your golf cart inspected, we will ask that, hey, before you schedule the inspection, make sure your golf cart meets these criteria. And it kind of lists out that it has four wheels, that you do have a rear view mirror equipped on the golf cart. We have a question from time to time, do side view mirrors count as rear view mirrors? And yes, they are considered rear view mirrors because we think about the license branch, for example. Your driver's license may be restricted to outside rear view mirror, which is the side mirror on there. So we're not going to get overly technical. We want you to have a mirror that you can see what may be approaching from behind you or coming around you as you're preparing to make a turn. So it's a safety concern for us on there. We talk about factory equipped seating. This does allow some aftermarket seats. We had a question, I didn't like the black seats that are on my golf cart and I want to put red seats on it. We're not trying to restrict seats being placed on a golf cart. I think the safety concern that came up is you'll see somebody that'll do something. I'm going to date myself here, but you think about the Beverly Hillbillies and the jalopy that they drive, and the configuration of some of the seating may not be the safest for passengers to be seated on. If somebody wanted to put, an outhouse on the back of a golf cart, that may not be the safest thing to put on the back of the golf cart. So you'll see some restrictions on there. The slow-moving vehicle placard, we wanted the standard size on that. It gives you the dimensions on that, the 14 by 16. I think those are available at Tractor Supply and about any kind of retailer on there that sells, the particular signage on there. But part of the reason you wanted that standard size outside of the visibility and the safety, the new ordinance does allow for operation after dark of a golf cart if it meets certain equipment requirements, the 2 headlights, 2 taillights, brake lights, turn signals, the slow-moving vehicle placard. And in addition to that safety equipment, the ordinance tells us the new decal is mounted right smack dab in the middle of the slow-moving vehicle placard. So if you do not have one that's of standard size on there, that decal may not fit and defeats the purpose of the ordinance, I guess, on there.
How long typically does the inspection take?
We allow 30 minutes for the inspection process.
So it's not a long time. It's not a painstaking deal. You got your pre-checklist, like you mentioned, coming in. You pull up, hopefully outside if the weather's nice, and be able to...
Sure, yeah. The inspection process will take, generally when we conduct the inspection, the first thing that we'll ask to see is the driver's license and the insurance card on there. And that allows the officer to go ahead and document on the inspection checklist what it is he's looking for. We'll verify the serial number that's on the insurance card to the golf cart on there. We also will double check the expiration date on the insurance card and double check that the registrant is a valid driver's license or a valid operator in Indiana.
And so after they've met with you guys, they've gotten their clean bill of health for their golf cart, then they come back to the clerk treasurer's office. Has that process changed or the same?
What they'll do, we'll come back with the driver's license, return the driver's license and insurance card, on there. And then we'll go out and we'll actually conduct that physical inspection. We'll just go straight through the checklist. Does it have 4 wheels? That's a check. Does it have the slow moving vehicle emblem? That's a check. The rear view mirrors are going to be a check. We've already checked the driver's license and insurance card on there. So, and then the next thing we do, we mentioned the new ordinance allows for operation after dark if your golf cart is equipped with 2 headlights, 2 taillights, brake lights, and turn signals. So we'll do a courtesy inspection for those items. If your golf cart does not have those items, that doesn't mean you cannot be issued a permit for the golf cart. However, it does mean you cannot operate that golf cart after dark. People say, what is after dark? Well, the ordinance will tell you it's that period that the National Weather Service determines 30 minutes before sunrise and sunset or after sunrise and sunset on there. And that's the answer to that question.
Yeah. And there is enforcement that comes with this. If you, and this isn't, I want to be able to kind of be tiptoeing around here. This isn't Big Brother, like more and more things and hoops to jump through. That this goes back to our purpose of the safety and having everybody on the same kind of playing field when it comes to the operation of a golf cart. But there is enforcement with this ordinance as well.
That's correct. The ordinance that was enacted does have some provisions for some different enforcement measures on there. We have the capability, for example, we go through these items on the checklist. If you are operating a golf cart without a slow-moving vehicle placard, that could be a violation of the ordinances. Officers could issue a ticket for that, and that could be a fine. For gross or negligent violations of it, such we were talking one of the bigger complaints, if you do not have a valid driver's license on it, if a 13-year-old neighbor boy happens to jump on a golf cart and take off down the road on a joyride on there. So, that is not a valid operator. So officers may not have any choice but to call and have the golf cart towed off of the roadway if there's no valid operator to drive that on home. So.
Yeah, and so far, you told me before we hit record, more than 100 folks have reached out and scheduled. We say scheduled because the weather is kind of so dicey. But they've reached out and wanted to have those golf carts inspected. So you guys are well on your way through that process.
It has seemed to work very well on our end. I was a little apprehensive about it because, like everyone else, not just the inspectors, but the inspectees, no one is ever a particularly big fan of change. We're asking people to do something a little different. It's a little more expensive than it has been in the years past, but kind of part of that expense is there is now a physical inspection component to the golf cart inspection that was never in place before, nor was, to my understanding, no one checking the status of a driver's license to ensure it is a valid driver that is operating the golf cart. So those are some new components that add a little more time-consuming process. Try to make do with the best we can with it. So.
Absolutely. As a Lebanon resident and a Lebanon Police Department major as well, what's your success story with the inspection process? If you're forecasting and looking, I don't know, during the summer of 26 and beyond, what are you hoping happens as a result of the golf cart permitting process that has been finalized, and also the e-bike and that next level discussion that has yet to be put on paper?
I think down the road, as we get a little more comfortable with the inspection process, we would like to add some weekend inspection hours. I think that would be easier for the citizens at times to be able to come to the police department, have your golf cart inspected on a weekend. We're currently working through that. Our thought was we initially want to go through with a process that we would be able to, work our way through and determine whether there are any issues or any problems with how we were doing the permitting. We wanted to make this as easy on the officers as we could to begin with. We didn't want officers to have to worry about what am I doing with cash, what am I doing with checks, or any of that. So the golf cart permitting process requires you to pay in advance to schedule your appointment. And then that money is deposited into the general fund of the city, and hopefully by offering some weekend hours, we can make that once again, that process a little easier in the city.
I think it would be also kind of your success story as well to see when you see so many of those golf carts, you see them all, the uniformity of the whole thing of knowing where that sticker is going to be, and you know that everyone's kind of following those rules and being on the same team when it comes to knowing that the whole purpose of this was to have everyone driving safely on a golf cart, no matter where they're at, no matter what holiday is taking place. But the operators are all licensed, they're all of age, everyone's safe and in their seat, a proper seat, and not like a Beverly Hillbillies one that brings back so many songs and memories. But having that as being one of the successes as well. Everybody's safe on the road as they're operating a golf cart, and for motorists as well that are driving cars as well.
It does. I think it makes it easier on us. I think it makes it a little easier on those that are registering their golf carts. One item that we have tried to emphasize at the police department as we're conducting these inspections, we are giving everybody a copy of the revised ordinance as part of that inspection process, kind of covering some of those highlights on there, such as the nighttime operation now allowed. I think it was back last October, the city council voted to allow golf cart operation on Lafayette Avenue. Mm-hmm. In the past, that had not been allowed, and that in part came about because there is no more interstate access with vehicles exiting I-65 onto Lafayette Avenue. Yeah. So the council believed, and we concurred, that was now a safe enough circumstance where you could allow golf cart operation on Lafayette Avenue. So I just think that back and forth between the citizens through the inspection process, our officers having to get out and inspect under the new ordinance kind of emphasizes what those changes are in their head, so they're better equipped to know what they're looking for inspection-wise and enforcement-wise as they're on patrol. If they see, that kid operating the golf cart, or, a golf cart operating after dark with not any lights on whatsoever, that they know that, hey, these are ordinance violations. We can take some enforcement action now.
Exactly. Major, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Thanks for the perspective, and we can't wait to see kind of how this process continues to benefit our community.
Thank you, Joe. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. And everybody, once again, we'll put the link in the body of the podcast as well. So if you need to schedule that golf cart permit, you can click on the link and then go through. If it's a special event or an annual inspection, you can do that, make that appointment, and get that golf cart inspected. So thanks for listening to this episode of the Love and Lebanon podcast. More episodes coming your way. Take care.